All rise. Oh, yes, oh, yes, oh, yes. This meeting of the Washington County Board of Commissioners is now in session pursuant to adjournment. The Honorable Chairman, Greg Matherly, is presiding. Come to order and remain standing.
Thank you, Sheriff. Our first order of business this evening is our prayer, which will be led by Commissioner Carter, and our pledge led by Commissioner Edens. Mr. Carter.
Let us pray. Father God, thank you for the many blessings you have given us this year. We thank you for the prayers that were answered and for the ones that were not. We thank you for our easy days and the days we had to labor to get through. We thank you for being our strength and our light, our shield and our answer. Please guide our meeting tonight. Father God, help us to soak up the joy this Christmas and help us to share it with each other every day. In the powerful name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Honor America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the roll call screen, please. You'll indicate that you are here this evening. Looks like we have a full house with 15 present. The next item is approval of the agenda. We have a motion. Motion made by Commissioner Fitzgerald. Oh, no, Commissioner Wexler, you were the second. Commissioner Fitzgerald was the second.
Okay, you can't see me. I was the first.
Yeah, you were the motion, and Commissioner Fitzgerald was the second. Okay. We'll get that straight here in just a minute. All right, any questions or discussion? Seeing none? All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? The motion passes and the agenda is approved. We have no items for public comment this evening. We have no public hearing. The minutes of your December 6th meeting of the Washington County Planning Commission is in your packet. Minutes of the Board of Zoning Appeals is also in your packet. Also included in your packet under special recognition and proclamation is the 4-H highlights. It's on page 1. Next item is the Board of County Commissioners minutes from the November 28th meeting. We have a motion. Motion by Commissioner Huffine to approve the minutes. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Williams. Questions or discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion passes and the minutes are accepted. Next item is the County Mayor's report. Mayor Grandy.
Everyone, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Mayor. Any questions for the mayor? All right. Next item is the County Attorney's report. Ms. Wilkins.
Thank you. Good evening. Can you hear me okay? Am I on?
You're on.
Thank you. I've left each of you a memo, which is actually an opinion, yes, which concerns a resolution from last March, which had certain conditions put on it. So that was resolution number 220307. And that was the one that confirmed Washington County's commitment, subject to certain conditions, which were set out in the resolution, to provide funds totaling $2 million for the purpose of constructing and operating a new meat processing facility in Washington County. Mr. Farmer, Wade Farmer, who's with Blackburn Childers in Stegall, provided me with certain documents that had been requested. I've given you a bit of a timeline. There were 2 letters that Mayor Grandy sent that were consistent with this resolution, setting out the conditions on the funding. Those are referenced here. Those were in April. And then in July, members of the Appalachian Producers Cooperative attended the Budget Committee, and the Budget Committee asked for certain documents, specifically bylaws and articles of incorporation, to confirm the conditions. The conditions are set out in your memo, and those are a matter of public record in Resolution 220307. And they deal with the fact that there would be a first right of refusal in the event of any liquidation or dissolution of the entity, and that would be for a 10-year term following the funding. And additionally, that there would be, for the same 10-year period, a refund of the money in the event that Appalachian Producers Cooperative transferred its ownership or its assets, et cetera. So that's set out there for you. And in conjunction with that, the resolution requested that the entity Appalachian Producers Cooperative, which was not fully in existence at the time, work with the county attorney's office so that the county could conduct its due diligence in confirming the funding and the use of the funding to support the investment. And that would be documents like the bylaws and the articles of incorporation. So what I've given you is my opinion, and it sets out very specifically that both in letter and in spirit, Appalachian Producers Cooperative have satisfied the requirement of transparency, specifically in their articles of incorporation. They actually set out the liquidation provision. And then in the bylaws, they also incorporate by reference the very specific resolution. So you may wish to have other information about them generally. Mr. Farmer has let me know that he'll be here shortly. He was leaving one meeting and coming to this one. If you have any questions about the business itself, what I've provided you is an opinion that's very specific to the scope that you charged me with, which was to make sure that those very particular conditions to funding were set out somewhere and memorialized. I recommended to Mr. Farmer that we have a short memorandum of understanding, that there's an enforceable agreement between the parties, and Mr. Farmer agreed to that. So I anticipate that that'll be something you'll see maybe even in January as a separate agreement to be approved by the commission so that it can be executed. And that will be that going forward for this 10-year period, these terms are memorialized in something beyond the resolution or the memo, but in an actual agreement that's enforceable between the parties. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. My information would be the scope that I was charged with in the resolution. It was very specific. So that's really what I'm reporting on. I'm not reporting on the viability of the entity or anything else like that, but just specifically what you as a commission specifically requested as conditions to funding in that resolution. I'm happy to provide you any of the documents that I looked at or the resolution or anything else. I'm always available to answer any of your questions. So are there any, or Mr. Chairman?
Yes, are there any questions for Ms. Wilkinson?
And I do think that Mr. Farmer is here, Mr. Chairman, if that's something that you care to see as a commission.
Is there any questions for Mr. Farmer? I'm sure he'll be back here next month with the resolution. Right. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to our next agenda item.
Could I ask, Mr. Chairman, that the opinion be accepted so that you have of record that it's been reviewed? And if it's not something that would be accepted, if there were specific items that we would know to work with Appalachian Producers Cooperative to confirm. I think you want a matter of record that this was presented to the commission.
Commissioner Wheeler?
Move to accept the report.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Wheeler to accept the report. Second by Commissioner Malone. Any questions or discussion? Question's been called. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. All opposed? Anything else, Ms. Wilkins?
No, sir. In light of having this report, I have dispensed with my annual recap of all of the resolutions, all the work that you've done this past year. I'll bring it to you next month.
It'll be a
Thank
great way
you.
to start off the new year.
There you go. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Oh. Our next item is the Director of Schools report. Director Boyd is away just a few minutes this evening. He had to attend another function, so a copy of his report is in the packet on page 11. If he returns, we'll have him up to give an update. Our next item is the CIA Committee report. Commissioner England.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me, you'll find the minute for our November 1st meeting on page 14. We bring to you a resolution number 22-12-01. Resolution approving a revised intergovernmental agreement between Washington County, Tennessee, City of Johnson City, Tennessee, and the town of Jonesboro, Tennessee, regarding the Washington County Economic Development Center. This resolution comes to you in the form of a motion for approval from the CIA committee.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner England to approve the resolution. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Williams. Discussion or questions? Commissioner England?
Make a comment that if anyone has any questions, Ms. Lisa Summers, the Economic Development Director for the City of Johnson City, is here. She might be willing to answer.
All right. Commissioner Jones?
Would like to understand better when or how we would work out the percentages. They're not in the draft.
Good evening, Commissioners. Are you referring to the funding percentages? So what we're proposing and what's under discussion right now is the same funding that is currently or was currently going to NetRep. And then the board meets again, tentatively we're scheduled for a February meeting, the Washington County Economic Development Council Board, and then we'll iron out those funding amounts at that time. I might also point out that in the revision to the intergovernmental agreement, that we're adding seats for the county, both the county and the city, on top of the seats that are mandated by the Public Chapter 1101.
Commissioner Jones?
So who appoints the county commissioners to this committee? Maybe you don't know the answer.
Mayor? The commission would appoint those seats.
And we would have to do that in January to have our two people sitting there in time for the February meeting.
Yes, that would be ideal.
So should that go through the CIA committee next month?
Mr. Chairman?
Are those appointments recommended or, Mayor, let me ask you a question before I answer that. Are those nominations made by the mayor and the commission confirms them, or how does that work?
Look at the document, it says the county commissioner of Washington County nominated, approved by Washington County.
Okay. Yes, it would go to the CIA committee for recommendation.
Thank you. And thanks for all the time you put into thinking this through.
Yeah, you are very, very welcome. And I'm happy to say that with this revision, and of course, the intergovernmental is still intact, and that the Washington County Economic Development Council has been an ongoing entity, even though it kind of morphed into the Northeast Tennessee Economic Partnership at one time. So prior to that, it was a standalone entity, and I'm sure some of you probably remember that. And basically, we're doing the same thing again. But it has been an ongoing organization, It's recognized and designated by the state as the Joint Economic and Community Development Board. It has met quarterly since 2014, so it's been an ongoing organization for economic development.
Commissioner England?
Has this already gone before the city of Johnson City and the county?
It'll go in front of the city commission in January, and Mayor Best said it would be going in front of the Jonesboro Board of Mayor and Aldermen this month.
Mayor Grandy?
One thing that was mentioned is that the current board of the Washington County Economic Development Council has elected Alicia as the CEO of that organization, which will continue to lead us in that as well as other states.
Any further questions? Commissioner Malone?
A similar question to Commissioner Johnson. This may just be an item for our county attorney, but I was a little confused by item 8, it's on page 25. It references percentages as it relates to the council's budget. It references percentages, and then when it references the 3 entities, it then shows dollar sign. I just wonder if that, I noticed that it's essentially the same wording that has existed from the past, but it is a little confusing. I just wondered if that could be rephrased. Maybe those percentages are to be determined each year with the budget or something. But it references percentage and then it references dollar amounts as if it's incomplete and something's to be determined.
That is something that I asked Ms. Summers about when the draft came to me right before the CIA meeting. And that and a number of other questions concerning what you don't see in this document, which is that it's a lawful organization under Tennessee law, et cetera, and the bylaws. All of that has been provided to me. With respect to your very particular question, that's to be determined when the board meets in February, because as I appreciate it, and please correct me, Ms. Summers, there will be an accounting of the funds that are available upon the dissolution of NETREP at 12/31/2022.
That's
And
correct.
when that accounting is conducted, it will allow this entity to determine what amount is required based on the percentages or the proportions that are set out, and then it's given a specific dollar amount. But that was not available at this time, and so I would say that it's not a blank check per se. It's not that it's an undetermined or indeterminable amount, but that until there is the dissolution of NETREP, which has already been funded by Washington County and Johnson City, and an accounting conducted, the county cannot identify to the penny what that amount would be. That you can memorialize that if that's something that you'd like to have. Ms. Summers brought that forward during CIA and addressed that issue.
Commissioner Wheeler?
If I'm not mistaken, last time dealt with, it was requested that it need all of the panels, because otherwise, the way this reads, the board settle down and the entities have funded unless they unanimously agree not to. That's not because it's terminated, it's by unanimous agreement. In other words, if it's not unanimously agreed, you are required to send in the set the budget unless it's a specific dollar amount.
And I might add also that it was intentional in not putting that dollar amount in there because of NETREP and the amounts that could potentially be going back to the city or the county. And in addition, we didn't want to make those changes to the bylaws or the budget until we met in February so that the new board members could have a role in creating those bylaws and budget as well.
Commissioner Jones, I want to back up on my answer just a minute ago. Since we're not appointing citizens or other folks, and it's a commissioner's seat, it would actually be appointed here in the commission. So I'd need to place that on the agenda for next month, under Rule 10. And I assume that would be the case if they're going to try to meet in February, it would need to go on the January agenda. All right, any further questions for Alicia?
All for the question.
Question's been called for. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 no, and the resolution passes. Thank you very much, Alicia. We appreciate all your hard work. I see that Director Boyd has joined us. Director, if you want to come up and add anything to your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Have a good evening, everybody. Nothing to add. I just wanted to point out that what the obvious in the report, I did add the, in the enrollment numbers, I added the percentages as far as capacity. Just to iterate, I think I noted it, that those numbers came from the recent facility study. So the architects that did the study, they identified functional capacity of our schools, and those numbers reflect what was in their report. But, and if you want any other data, please suggest, and I'll be glad to include that in future monthly reports. But other than that, I'm open to any questions, but I'd like to slip in, I think I said it last time, but we're about to approach the holidays, and I just want to wish all of you and your family happy holiday, and from my family to yours, a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Coker?
Some of the percentages, you've got like Ridgeview is 104, 108%. So how do you fix something like that? Or what are we looking at to fix that? Redistrict or?
Well, that was part of the study too, recognizing the capacity where Ridgeview is. For some time, the board has been under a policy where they have closed enrollment at Ridgeview, as far as only those that live in the area, and then some few exceptions. Or when they closed, there was a grandfather clause. If there was families that were in there, then they allowed them to go through the grade levels. But yeah, just stricter policies. But the next step for the board is to look at enrollment zones. That will impact Ridgeview, but when you make adjustments, it impacts several schools.
So what percentage? I mean, is it where it needs to be redistricted now? That percentage, I mean, how high do you see that goes?
Well, I think a rule of thumb, a comfort zone for enrollment in a school is 80% capacity. That's when you start getting a little concerned if you got a growth pattern. But once you exceed 90%, then you're talking about stricter policies, changing enrollment zones, and possibly, if it's several schools, talking about construction of new facilities.
There's a lot more coming.
Yes, sir, particularly in that area. Yes, sir. So we will start this spring with organizing the discussions around the adjustments to enrollment zones and study and identify options throughout the next year. So if there are changes, we at least give families a year in advance notice if we can. Yes, sir.
Commissioner Malone?
One, just to thank you again for written work. And I do like the breakout of enrollment by school. So thank you for that. At the risk of making it even smaller for my wee guys to
Sorry.
No, I like that. It might be meaningful because one of the things that was a surprise to me was to learn the number of non-Washington County students that attended Washington schools. And I know that it impacts one or two schools more than others, but it might be nice if we had another column that just put either a number or a percentage at those individual schools, how many non-Washington County students attended those schools.
Sure.
So that's something at some point.
Appreciate that. That would be beneficial to the commission and certainly the board. Yes.
Well, I think it ties in with the Tucker question as well, about especially when you've got a school that's at 8%, 9%.
Right, and just to verify, I mean, that's what is termed functional capacity, which classrooms are being used in the way they're intended to be. You know, there are other spaces that sometimes you move into when you start getting a crowded building and you make classrooms out of them, but they weren't originally intended to be classrooms. So that number's, you know, 108 is certainly exceeding the number of classrooms that were intended to be classrooms.
Thank you.
In the pre-K programs you had listed, do those parents pay for that service?
The only tuition program we have in pre-K is at Boones Creek Elementary School. The other programs are through the state volunteer pre-K program, which funding comes to us from the state. It does not pay 100% of the cost of the program, but for those classrooms, no. Only at Boones Creek Elementary School do we have a pre-K tuition program. Kurt. Well, thank you all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Director Board. Merry Christmas. All right, the County Owned Property Committee report, Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Chairman. You can find the minutes and attachments from our December 1st meeting on page 27. And today I'd ask that you consider resolution number 221103A, resolution allocating county-owned Princeton Arts Center for the Washington County Election Commission and authorizing certain capital projects fund spending for fiscal year 22-23 for construction and renovation costs. This comes with a recommendation from the committee, and I bring it to you in the form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Jones to approve the resolution. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Williams. Discussion or question?
I don't get thinking on here, but I don't see the urgency of this. I mean, they say they got me some water fairly quick, but we can't even get in this building for 6 months. And I don't understand the urgency of passing this tonight. But however, if we do, I'd like for us to work hard to get it back in Jonesboro in the near future. Mr. McAllister told us the other day, out of 95 counties in Tennessee, every election commission is in the county seat. If we have to do this temporary, it's one thing, but I'd like to make sure they get moved back to Jonesboro.
All right. Any further discussions or questions?
Oh, question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. 15 yes, the resolution passes. Anything else, Commissioner Jones?
No, that's all. Thank you.
All right. The Health, Education, and Welfare Report, Commissioner Jones.
You can see the minutes and attachments from our December 1st meeting on page 33. And I would encourage you to look at those. There were a couple of presentations related to funding from the ARPA funds for workforce development related projects. But today, the only matter that we need to be considering is resolution number 221202, resolution authorizing Washington County, Tennessee's acceptance and execution of the Washington County Jonesboro Library LTSA grant. You can find that on page 74. It comes with a recommendation from the Hugh Committee, and I bring it to you in the form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Jones. Do we have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Huffine to approve the resolution. Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Anything else, Commissioner Jones?
Thank you.
Thank you. I see we're coming up on the Public Safety Committee report. Before we start into that, Chief Rose is with us tonight in the back of the room, and he was going to give us an update on the Grinch in jail. Chief, what is going on over here with this Grinch? I keep hearing about the rumblings of the Grinch in the jail.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mr. Mayor, Chairman. He has been a disruptive force in the jail, and we would ask that everyone please assist us in getting him bailed out because we're in fear of riotous behavior that he is trying to get all the other inmates involved with. And even with bread and water, he has been a disruptive person, so.
So you can give to the Children's Advocacy Center, that money is what his bond is going to, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is what we need.
All right. So $10,000 the goal on that. We appreciate any assistance we can get, or we're going to have to contribute to
We're
that.
very concerned about it.
We appreciate you, Chief. We do. We're going to talk to Mitch about that. He's the man with all the money. He just sits over here real quiet. All right, our next item is the Public Safety Committee. Commissioner Edens.
Mr. Chairman, you can see the minutes from our December 1st meeting on page 77. We have one resolution for consideration tonight. That's resolution number 22-1203, a resolution amending the fiscal year budget 2022 to 2023 Sheriff's Department purchase of a K-9. That comes to you with the recommendation of the committee in the form of a motion.
Right, got a motion by Commissioner Edens, seconded by Commissioner Fitzgerald to approve the resolution. Questions or discussion?
You buy one that's already trained, or you select the dog and send it for training?
You have,
Would be a great question.
yeah, come on back up here, Chief.
I would hate to speak out of turn, but an expert in the room. Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's a great question. It's been done both ways, but in this particular case, this dog will be trained, and then we will send the deputy there for 6 weeks to be trained with the dog, and they will come back as a team.
Chief, tell us what this dog is going to do.
It will be an explosive detection dog, and it will be, our intention is to be with an SRO. We haven't determined which school yet, but it will be with an SRO. It will be a Labrador Retriever. It will not be a German Shepherd or a Malinois. It will be a Labrador Retriever. Its sole purpose will be to detect explosives, but it also will have capability of detecting firearms. And so it will not be an aggressive dog. It will be strictly for detector work. That's fine.
What's the expected years of service?
The dog is supposed to be within 18 months to 3 years old. We haven't seen the dog yet. And we expect it, because it's not an aggression dog and it doesn't go through all the rigors of patrol work, we think that we should be able to get about a 10, 11-year service out of the dog.
Where will the dog be housed?
At the deputy's home. They'll be partners just like our current dogs.
Mr. Malone?
Well, we had, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but we had some conversation about this in budget because my wife had seen some tidbit of the media report and she was concerned because this is a replacement dog for a retiring dog, correct?
Well, it's a different type of function dog. We did just retire a dog and it comes at about the same time. However, this dog has a different function from that dog.
But my wife was just concerned about the retiring dog, and I was assured in budget, I think by Chief Lowry that, or the sheriff that.
If you recall, we
the
had
retiring dog was going home with its happy.
yes, we had a resolution allowing the handler to adopt that dog. And that's been drafted by our county attorney.
Okay.
And there's been a liability release where now the deputy has sole responsibility and liability of that dog. And that dog is also going to be housed at home and enjoy its retirement.
Good deal, thank you.
Call for the question.
Question has been called. Thank you so much, Chief Rose. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please.
You better be chocolate.
Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, the resolution passes. Anything else, Commissioner Edens?
Sir.
All right. Next item is the Public Works Committee report. Commissioner Davenport, I see you have some minutes from December the 1st.
That's right, on page 80. Wasn't that
questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Right. Seeing no questions for Commissioner Davenport, we'll move right on into the Budget Committee report. Commissioner Malone?
Yes, I'm pitching for Commissioner Wheeler, who had to leave. But the minutes from the Budget Committee are on page 86, and I'd be glad to try to answer any questions. With our financial director involved here. We do have two resolutions for you tonight. Resolution 22-1204 was resolution getting the fiscal year budget for 22 and 23 regarding workers' compensation expense. And I think this just breaks it down by the various general ledger line items. So that has been approved by budget and comes to you in the form of a motion.
Got a motion to approve by Commissioner Malone. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner England to approve the resolution. Questions or discussion? Questions been called? Madam Clerk, switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, the resolution passes. Commissioner Malone?
Second resolution is on page 97, resolution 22-1205, a resolution amending the fiscal year budget for 2022 and 2023. And this is to purchase additional election commission voting machines. This is an expense that the county incurs and then is reimbursed by the state. I think this is for the additional machines that our election commission from the director requested. So this has been approved by budget. It comes to you in the form of a motion for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Malone. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Jones.
Call for the question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Next item, we have no old business to report to you this evening. We do have notaries. Resolution 22-1206 is a resolution approving the election of notaries public for appointment or reappointment of Washington County, Tennessee. We have a motion. Motion made by Commissioner Tucker. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Johnson to approve the resolution. Question or discussion? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us over to the voting screen, go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, the resolution passes. We don't have no new business to report. We do have a couple of small items to announce. I spoke to Commissioner Jones, and I beg your forgiveness for missing our meeting. I was under the weather. I have been feeling better, and I appreciate your all's prayers and concern for me. And I did hate to miss our meeting. While you were there, though, you talked about a follow-up in May. Is there any? Have y'all discussed that? I wasn't there, Commissioner Jones. Are we going to? We were just kind of needing some ideas
There was no
for dates.
And frankly, May's tough, but it gets harder in the summer. The idea is that we do a shorter meeting, maybe 2 hours. Is that about right? I'm looking at Commissioner. And just kind of circle back up on those 3 objectives and look at, have we got something going in terms of implementing them? And if we don't, then sort of build that out a little bit. I don't know. Commissioner Huffine, would you add anything to that?
No, I think that's right. I would just suggest perhaps, early in May, if we're going to be consistent with Saturday morning, either the 6th or the 13th.
I think we had a request not to do the weekend, didn't we? Is that what we discussed?
We got Mother's Day, graduation.
Is there any possible way we could do it at the end of the day on committee day that month?
Which would be May 4th. And we could hold it at 6:30 or something like that?
We could do it at the storytelling center or something like that.
That'd be great.
If that would be.
And we talked about having pizza, like, so it doesn't have to be starving time and meetings. So maybe we'll do like 6 to 8 on that day.
You want to do, yeah, let's do 6 to 8. If that's acceptable with everybody, and I'll watch what I eat and I'll be there next time.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Sherry, will you make a note of that meeting date? It'll be on the, it'll be, our committee date at 6 o'clock at the Storytelling Center in May. Is that what it is? May 4th, I think, yeah. Also, next month, we'll hopefully be having some technology changes in the way we vote and the way our voting system operates, and it will be upgraded by 10 years. So we're excited about that. I just beg for your patience as me and Mary Ellen move through that process, and it will be a bit different. You know, we'll be going from garage door openers to iPads, so it's going to be, it'll be considerably different, but I think in the long run, it'll be better. So we'll have a bit of training at some point in time, but we'll let you know when that is. And we're shooting for January's meeting, and hoping for the best. So our cutoff for January, commission agenda is January the 12th at noon. It'll be a big agenda in January. And, so Allison would appreciate all you can do to get that in, as we are changing a bit of how we make packets. So, that's going to be a first for us too. So, January 12th will be a pretty hard cutoff. So, try to get as much as you can to Allison by then, because we're going to be doing some new things on how we make agenda packets. Is there anything else?
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Commissioner Tavita, seconded by Commissioner Huffine. All in favor of adjourning downstairs, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? We're adjourned.
So I know you hate